Yesterday we began with the discourse on Citta Anupassana Satipatthana, mindfulness by contemplating the mind as mind. And we have these two things, a pair of two things, namely Vimutta Citta and Avimutta Citta. Noting mind is noting to guard yourself with vigilant mindfulness of every arising, beginning with the main object of rising and falling, and every arising object in the body as they arise. At the moment of their arising, noting with precision, energetically, so that you are free from kilesa at that very moment. Such is Tadanga Vimoti, momentary freedom. With one moment of noting, you are free from, you are cultivating one moment of Kusala Citta, so that you are free from kilesa at that very moment. And such is known as Tatanga Vimoti, momentary freedom from kilesas. In ordinary language or usage, we say part-time freedom from defilements. If the noting mind is noting in this way, then you are having or possessing this Tatanga Vimoti. And otherwise, as a corollary, if not, you are not noting, you are thinking or imagining, then you will not be noting it. Because you are not noting it, you are not free from kilesas at that very moment, and such is Avimutta Citta. And we ended our discourse at that point. All along our life process, so long as we have not reached the final path of arahantship, kilesas are bound to invade us, rise in our stream of consciousness. And sometimes we are full of kilesas, not to mention ordinary beings, worldlings, putujanas. Now the analogy given here is putting water in an empty bottle or empty jar full of before you put water, the jar or bottle is full of air. And how to replace this air, how to take out this air? There are three ways. First, fill the bottle with air, with water, put water in it. The second method is heat it, so that heat expands and air will go out. The third method is to suck out the air in order to empty it. So when you put water drop by drop, dropwise, and as much as you put water, these droplets will replace the air. With one drop, there will be one replacement of air, 2 drops, 2 replacement, and so on. So too with the noting mind. When we are cultivating our mindfulness, if we note for one moment or one noting, we are replacing kilesa. 10 notings, 10 kilesas are replaced. 100 notings, 100 replacement. That's like water takes the place of the air, so that water cannot control this bottle, so to speak. Water cannot take the upper hand. And if you fill the bottle or a jar half full with water, then half of the air in the jar or bottle will go out, will be replaced. If you fill it up to the brim, then all the air in the jar or the bottle will be replaced by the water. Then water will be in command, will hold the upper hand, and not the air. There will be no more air at all. Such is the nature of the practice. Now you are noting, as much as the noting mind is just like one drop of water replaces one drop of air. And although one drop of air, one drop of water is insignificant, trivial, but as you go on putting drops of water, many drops of water, then it becomes significant. So too with the mindfulness, with noting mind, one moment of noting mind may be trivial, but with the continuous cultivation or activation of mindfulness, it will be significant. If you are able to activate your mindfulness, then just like water replacing air, likewise, yogi is noting, watching the body and noting every arising object, so as to activate your mindfulness. All these kilesas which can enter if you are not noting will not have the chance to arise in the stream of consciousness. They are said to be replaced by the noting mind. And as you go on practicing in this way, you are said to be cultivating this Tatanga Vimukti, part-time freedom on a part-time basis. And this will be accumulated when it becomes powerful. It becomes what is known as Vaikambana Vimukti, freedom by distancing the kilesas. Because the noting is strong, even if you are facing or kilesas are invading you, especially this coarse form of kilesas, they will not arise in your stream of consciousness because they are distanced, said to be distanced, removed from you to certain distance. So in this way, you are gaining, as much as you gain momentum in your activation of mindfulness, these kilesas will be distanced from you, and such is freedom by distancing kilesas, Vaikambana Vimukti. If our life process or mind process, mental process in our life is not cultivated with the practice of Satipatthana, and left as it is, then about the objects that we encounter, kilesas will always invade us, arise, without we having to do anything about it. We don't have to exert any energy to allow kilesas to enter us. They will come to us full time. Because we don't know how to control ourselves with mindfulness. We are just living as we used to be, freely, that means without any restraints of the mind, with the practice of Satipatthana. There will be these negative elements, negativities, such as greed or desire about agreeable objects. And these desires will arise without you doing anything. They will just enter, they will just come to you very easily. You don't have to invite them, they will come automatically. And about disagreeable object also, there may be dissatisfaction, disappointment, ill will, and all these things. And about objects which are to be known, noted and known, not knowing the natural characteristics of these objects, you are overwhelmed by delusion. Your mind is deluded. No clarity of mind, you are said to be confused. So all these negativities come in one by one, continuously. You don't have to do anything, they will come automatically. Unwelcome guests there. So, for a long time, they will be gaining the upper hand, because your mind is not powerful, mind is weak, no energy, nor are you prepared to energize your mind, because your mind is a weakling. Just as a weakling is always bullied by the powerful, by the strong, so too not being able to nurture your mind, your mind becomes a weakling, and it will be bullied by these powerful kilesas. So you have to nurture your mind continuously, just like when you are contesting in a boxing match. You got to be prepared. You got to make practice for some time under the tutorship, under the guidance of an able teacher. Then, when you are assured of your ability, then you can go into the ring and challenge the champion, so that you'll be able to face and overcome these hindrances of progress, beginning with the hindrance of kamacchanda nivaranas, which had been gaining upper hand all along your lifetimes. Because if you are weak, then you've got to nurture your energies. You've got to energize yourself. So with the yogis, they got to nurture their practice, cultivate their mind by noting continuously, so as to sustain your steadfast mindfulness. And in order to do so, you've got to apply ardent energy. So these two things are essential in noting your object, that is, application of ardent energy and proper aiming at the object, so that the noting mind is concurrent with the object. That is, aiming is vitaka, proper aiming is a jhanic factor, a factor of jhana, absorption. So as much as you apply these mental factors, then your mindfulness is bound to be sustained on an object. If for 1 second, at the rate of 1 noting per second, you'll be able to concentrate your mind as your mind falls calm and collected for that moment. Just imagine at that very moment there cannot be any kilesas arising in your stream of consciousness. There cannot be any hindrances of progress, beginning with the hindrance of kamacchanda, sense desire hindrance, or vyabhada nivarana, and hindrance of ill will, and so on. Now you are applying this ardent energy and noting, so that you become one-pointed, your mind becomes one-pointed on the object. And since you are applying this virya energy, the opposite undermining elements, such as mental states such as china, meda, sloth and torpor, cannot set in, cannot come to you. You will not be overwhelmed by this sloth and torpor, because you are applying ardent energy. And because your mind is concentrated, there will be no distraction, no restlessness, no wandering. And initially, you have acceptance with faith in the practice. So there cannot be any doubt about the practice. There can only be faith. So, as you are able to note for 1 moment, you are overcoming the hindrances to progress, beginning with kamacchanda nivarana, hindrance of sense desire, which has been gaining upper hand. Now you are gaining the upper hand, because you are nurturing your energy. And as much as you are able to continue it successfully, like this boxing match, after some practice, prolonged practice, and you are able to challenge this champion, face the champion, because you have become energized. You are gaining the upper hand of these undermining elements, kilesas, and as you accumulate these energies, your mental powers become very powerful. So the yogis are exhorted by the teachers to note continuously, without missing, without leaving any gap for kilesas to enter, so that the mind become very powerful and energized. When you are putting water in a bottle, this analogy, sometimes the bottle is bottle of the jar is very narrow, has a narrow neck, and you got to take an aim. You got to be careful, use extra care to put water in that bottle through this narrow neck. Then as you are able to accumulate this water, then there will be water pressure. Due to the water pressure, the air is bound to go out, leave the bottle. So try to put more and more pressure by drop, so too with the practice. Like the saying, guard yourself with the vigilant mindfulness of every arising. You note every arising object meticulously so as to grasp the object, not so as not to miss it. Just like putting drop by drop in a narrow-necked bottle, so too you are able to aim at the noting mind, noting one by one, moment after moment, and as you sustain your mindfulness, you will be able to gain the upper hand. That's why as for some yogis, sometimes of course they are putting water, sometimes they are not putting water, they may miss the narrow mouth. They may be putting water elsewhere, overshoot it, wasting water, or they may be gazing here and there, putting water, but the hand is putting water, but the face is gazing elsewhere, so they cannot see it. So with the practice, the noting mind is not noting to aim to anchor into the object. Instead, it may be overshooting, or it may not be able to catch up with the object. The object may arise and pass away quickly, so that you are too late. So then the bottle will not be full of water, and there will be not enough pressure to replace the water, to replace the air. So you have to note, if a noting mind is not continuous, that's why some yogis have not much, they are not progressing. Day by day, they have the same thing, dreary reports. Day by day, so that the teacher may doze. Make the teacher and the translator doze. So there must be good pressure in order to let the kilesas out, and you will gain the upper hand. Just as in the first method of evacuating or replacing air from the water or jar with the pressure of water, taking out, replacing air by water, so too in the second method we can apply this heat. If you heat, then as we say, heat expands, cool contracts in physics, coming back to physics. So also the air will expand and go out if you apply heat. Here the heat is ardent energy, atapi or atapa, heat to replace the air. Yogi has to apply this atapa, ardent energy. The Buddha also has said in the Satipatthana discourse that one should apply atapi in the form of the right energy, the right endeavor, samabrana lunavariya in Pali. That is the right endeavor in order to dry up the kilesas. Heat, use the heat of energy in the practice. That means not to be cool, slack, lax, not to be lazy, not to be slothful, and instead one should apply Viriya, energy, energetically. In order to note an ever-rising object continuously, one has got to apply right energy every second of the practice, not to miss even a moment. If you are just casual and not energetic, and so you are lazy or slack or lax, then kilesas are bound to invade you. They will take the upper hand. So, if you apply this ardent energy, kilesas will not be accepted. By not accepting, they are said to be abandoned or overcome. So, the akusala or kilesas will not have a chance to arise in a stream of consciousness. So that by applying this heat, like applying heat in a bottle, air goes out, no fresh air can come in, so too kilesas will not be able to come in. Just as you apply heat in a bottle and air goes out, you apply this ardent energy every second in your stream of consciousness. That is application of viriya. So that kilesas are not accepted, they are said to be driven out, just like you drive out air from a bottle. You drive out your kilesas with the application of ardent energy. And the third method and final method is to suck out with a vacuum machine or something. They remove the air from the bottle. And so with the practice, there is a method to suck out the kilesas. At times, because you have slack or lacks energy, because energy is lax, you have your mindfulness doesn't take place, you miss to note, then you are allowing kilesas. Kilesas are bound to invade you. So that there will be likes and dislikes about agreeable or disagreeable objects. That is, as much as you miss this mindfulness, they are bound to enter and invade you for 1 minute or 2 minutes or more, especially for imaginative people, daydream, indulging in daydreams, or just thinking about a story or an episode, like the story of the uncle and the nephew. Thinking about, imagining or fantasizing one after another for a very long time. Sometimes one does not know, one doesn't know whether one is wandering, thinking or not. Until after a long time one realizes, oh, I've been lost in my daydream for a long time. So for those people it's very difficult because of the lack of energy in noting. There's no noting mind, no mindfulness, so the kilesas enter. What to do about that? It's just like enemies coming in. You are sort of watching, keeping a watch on the house or whatever, and enemies come in, even if you are keeping watch. So what to do? You got to pull them out. There's no other way. Otherwise, if you allow these rogues to stay in your house, then they're bound to cause trouble. So too with the practice, even if you are practicing mindfulness, and sometimes for lack of energy and mindfulness, sati, these kamichandas or negativities enter, invade you. You got to note and overcome it, abandon it. Like the saying, saraga chittava, saraga miti, pajanadi, and so on. If it's wanting mind, note as wanting. Be aware of wanting mind. If it's not wanting mind, beware or note as not wanting mind. If it's anger, or the mind with anger, just anger, then note as angry or anger. Beware as such. And if you are free of anger, note as such, or be aware as such. So too, when the enemies come in, you got to remove them by noting. Because the enemies come in because you are missing objects, missing mindfulness. You are not able to activate mindfulness continuously. So you got to, when they enter, you got to pull them out, take them out. This is just like sucking the air out of the bottle. Knowing the advantages, the benefit of Satipatthana, and cherishing to realize it, to gain it, yogis note meticulously, continuously, and so that in one sitting, some yogis report that in the whole sit, the mind does not go out because of the continuous mindfulness, because of the careful mindfulness. And also, even if the mind goes out, one knows at once that one's mind has gone out. In this way, some yogis who practice respectfully and carefully would boldly report to the teachers. So, Venerable, in my whole sit, my mind has been in my body, with my objects, and it never goes out like that. And even if it goes out momentarily, I am aware of that. So such yogis are those who practice respectfully and carefully in accordance with the guidance of the teachers. In one moment of mindfulness, there are involved these three trainings, Sila, Samadhi, Panya, or the noble path of eight constituents. The whole formula is involved. With the practice of the three trainings, Sila, Samadhi, Panya, these three trainings are powerful enough to repel kilesas, to overcome kilesas. So, knowing this, those yogis who are respectful yogis cherish and appreciate even this moment of mindfulness, not to miss it, so that they can sustain this mindfulness, steadfast mindfulness. In this regard, for your general knowledge, and the text was given as a little episode, in a monastery, 3 monks, the eldest monk, middle-aged monk and young monk, 3 monks are practicing in one vasa, rains retreat, and at the end of the rains retreat they met again and they asked one another. Now the eldest asked the youngest one, so how's your practice? How's your mind? What is the condition of your noting mind? Can you tell me? Yes, Venerable Sir, he said, I practice very carefully and my mind stays within this compound, within the precincts of the monastic compound. It never goes out. That means he may be seeing some trees or some things, few things in the monastic compound, but it never goes out of the compound. Maybe the compound is closed, so it doesn't go out. It's fantastic, because the mind is, the nature of the mind is such that it can fly any moment. Flighty mind. It can run away miles and miles, millions of miles. It can go to the moon even. So such a mind can be confined in the monastic compound. Is fantastic. And how about the middle-aged, the second monk? How are you? How about you? How did you manage? Sir, is that my mind stayed within my kuti, my monastery, my building, my room, and it did not go out of my kuti. That's very fantastic. That's better than the first one. Then I came to the eldest one. So I had to ask the eldest monk, how is your mind, sir? How is your practice? Well, I practice in accordance with the saying, guard your mind with vigilant mindfulness of heavy rising. I sustain mindfulness steadfastly, so that my mind is continuous. My mind stays on the body, and it does not go out. It stays in the body. That means he is noting every rising in the body, and it does not go out. Fantastic, more fantastic, most fantastic. So these things, first it was thought it was deemed impossible in those days, but now with the present day yogis, as they report about their practice, that they are able to note continuously in one seat without any wandering mind. Instead, their mind stays in the body. So we can. This is quite in agreement with what happened in those days. It's a possibility. It's fantastic. So whenever the teachers want to test the yogis especially at the higher insight knowledge, when the teacher asks the yogis would report that even if they try to send their mind or to remember or think about the best of the best agreeable object, or the worst of the worst disagreeable object, the mind won't go there. It will bounce back, like your volleyball or something. It will bounce back. They try to let the mind go, but it came back. It always comes back to yourself, or in other words, you're noting every arising in your body instead of your mind remembering or thinking about those external objects. So even if they try to let the mind go, the mind won't go. It stays. Like this boomerang, the weapon that is used by the Aborigines in Australia. When they throw this boomerang, it comes back. So that's how they report to the teachers. So there are other wonderful events that happen to those meticulous, dedicated yogis, and now we know that such things which happen in the text are possible to happen even in this modern age. For some yogis, and a little noting and more wondering, so that the teachers have to surrender when they report such things. And such things that have happened before. There was a little story which happened more than 40 years ago. A lady from a place called up country. She was a businesswoman, trader. She came to practice meditation at the center, and always she had a wandering mind every day, and she was not aware of this wandering mind. And although in spite of the teacher's guidance, her mind still wandered. There was no end to it. Must be, I think she excelled in this case, the Westerners whom we have been saying they're very imaginative. But you cannot compete with her. I think she has won the battle now. So the teacher had to give her, And in spite of the guidance, she cannot control her mind. And she said that she gave her own story back at home when there was a dana ceremony, offering to the monks. And at the end of the offering, at the end of the dana, we had the usual tradition of what is known as water libation ceremony. Pouring water drop by drop into the receptacle, while the chief monk is saying, making wishes and saying good things. And all these discourse that is given by this monk at the water libation ceremony, only 1 or 2 words enter her ears in the beginning. Later she forgot all about it. Her mind wandered, so that she couldn't remember anything after that, until there was a time for applauding with sadhu. Then somebody had to touch her. Okay, it's time for sadhu now. Then only she applauded. Sadhu, sadhu. So from the time of holding this water receptacle for water libation, she could only hear 1 or 2 words and no more. So what happened during that time? She said, since she was in business, she was business minded, and she had been flying between these 2 towns, Makwe and Namok, several times during this discourse, water libation ceremony. And the whole time she was involved in that. In this way she couldn't control, her mind wandered. So in the meditation, so she could not control her mind, so that she had to go back without gaining anything. So this is, in this way, if one is indulging in wandering mind, then how can one gain this vimutta citta, freedom, free mind, freedom from kilesas, gaining freedom, free vimutti citta. Instead she is gaining avimutti citta, and the mind which is not free, the mind under bondage. So with being overwhelmed by kilesas, she is bound to suffer. So now of course yogis who are here, they are not as bad as that. So it's better that they are not as bad as that lady from Nama. In cultivating, one's mind, nurturing one's mind, Satipatthana Bhavana is the most effective method. If one's life or one's mind is not properly shaped, then practice Satipatthana. Then your mind, your life will become properly shaped, properly molded, and Satipatthana is most effective in that. As has been said yesterday, we should launch what is known as Dhamma revolution, so that we become Dhamma revolutionaries. In this way, we can change, we can transform very soon. Day by day, we are practicing. That means in one day, many hours, many minutes, many seconds, we are practicing to cultivate the mind, to nurture the mind, nurture one's life. Otherwise, this mind or this life will never change. Like the children, you bring up children. If you don't bring up children with proper control, proper admonishment, proper teaching, then they will not automatically become good citizens. Then it will not be worth bearing these children. And the mind, and the same thing with the mind, it will not automatically become tamed if you leave the mind uncontrolled in this way. So, with the kilesas, your mind will never become pure and unblemished, and cultivated, and graceful, and cool and affable. So, knowing this, the Buddha has given this verse in Dhammavada, beginning with Donikasa Launo. That means Donikasa, mind is difficult to control or tame, like these wild animals. You cannot tame an a tiger, for instance. It's difficult to tame it. So too with the mind. It's difficult to tame. It is as wild as a wild animal. Donigasa. If it's not properly cultivated or nurtured or practiced, then the mind will remain very flighty. It will wander about here and there, just as we said, for the meditator, for a yogi, the body is here in the hall, but the mind is away. They will say that. So you are home at once. Your mind is gone home at once. And for those who have come miles, millions of miles, thousands of miles away, at once they can send their mind. They can remember now, even while we are talking. The mind may be there. What's happening, who is doing what, and so on. All the body is here. The mind is there. The mind is away. How so fast is the mind? That is given by this expression, lahu no. Very fast. There's nothing as fast as the mind. It can reach, it can go anywhere. It can go to the moon, or even to the Mars. It is changeable. Now the mind is pure, and a moment later it has become blemished, impure. Then that's the saying, Yarakama Nipatino. The mind lands wherever it pleases, irrespective, without regard to one's status or one's honor or glory. It will land wherever it likes, it pleases. That's the nature of the mind, as given by this expression, Yarakama Nipatino. If without the practice, if you not cultivate your mind with the practice of Satipatthana, it will remain as wild as ever. So it is good to tame this mind. Danta Chitta, our mind becomes tamed or cultivated. And it is easy to tame the mind. How? Note at the moment of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, and so on. Apply mindfulness at every seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, and every rising object. In this way you tame the mind so that it becomes cultured, cultivated, tamed. Because you are applying this bhavana, the meditative power of meditation, bhavana, at the moment of hearing, tasting, and so on. So even if one is confronted with negativities, these things will not arise in a stream of consciousness. Kilesas will not be able to invade you. You become free from these kilesas, so that as you energize your practice, become powerful, then your mind will become pure, blameless, unblemished, affable, cultured, graceful. So there will be no kilesas at the moment of hearing, seeing, tasting, touching. Hence, this is Danta Chitta, tamed or cultured mind. Then what will happen if the mind is tamed? Sukha Vaham. It will bring about happiness. So, that is the benefit or advantage of taming or cultivating the mind. Now the yogis are doing the same thing. They are taming the mind, cultivating the mind at the moment of hearing, seeing, tasting, touching. So, at once they are able to improve, they cultivate with the practice of Satipatthana, and when with the success in the practice, they are bound to gain the real happiness, the kind of happiness which excels worldly happiness manifold, and it is never monotonous. About your worldly pleasures, you cannot eat the same curry or food every day. So the dining hall staff have to change these dishes for you so that you don't get dreary or monotonous. Oh, every day this food coming on in front of us. So then you'll be fed up with it. Now we change this food. That is the example of the worldly pleasures. They have to be changed. You enjoy it only when things change. But as for this happiness, Dhamma delight, you don't have to change. The same thing. You are noting every day. Don't think you are doing the same thing. But this kind of happiness excels manifold this worldly happiness, and it cannot become monotonous, dreary, like the worldly happiness. And it is good in itself, without any mixture. Because when you are given this curry, it has to be mixed with many things. Curry powder and whatnot, salt and pepper and all that sort of thing. They never come alone. Nobody will just pick the simple food. They will pick only the mixed food, because the mixture, the thing is good. But in the case of this Dhamma delight, it is good in itself, without any mixing, in its pure state. That's what is given as in this Dhammavara. As one practices respectfully, carefully, and yogis are noting continuously, as the noting mind is continuous, then these kilesas or impurities which can arise if one is not mindful will not be given a chance to arise, and you are said to be free, liberated on a part-time basis, such as vimutta citta, liberated mind, or free mind, or freedom. And there are two kinds of freedom. That is freedom from kilesas about the object noted, and freedom from kilesas about the object not noted. Because as much as one is free from kilesas, free from kilesas as regards the objects noted, there can also be this freedom from kilesas as regards the objects not noted. Automatically, they are said to be distanced. So the first one is Tathanga Vibhuti, the second one is Vikhamana Vibhuti, freedom by distancing the kilesas. For the objects noted, this is Tathanga Vibhuti. For the objects not noted, the freedom is called Vikhamana Vibhuti. So we have these two kinds of Vibhuti which are happening in the yogi's mind at the present time. So as we go on practicing, developing, then the kilesas will be distanced more and more, farther and farther away. Then cultivating the insight, beginning with the discernment of mind and body, progressing along the path until one realizes the path and fruition knowledge of the noble ones. Then one is this is such a freedom, vimukti, is known as samucheda vimukti. That is, one is totally free from these kilesas. Then you do it again, repeat again, to be free from kilesas again and again. That is patipadati vimukti. Then one realizes nibbana, totally free from kilesas. That is nisrana vimukti. So right now there are 5 vimuktis, 5 freedoms altogether. Now, as for now, we are practicing, or we are possessing or holding these 2 vimukti, 2 freedoms, namely Tathanga Vimukti and Vikhamana Vimukti. Tathanga Vimukti about freedom from kilesas as regards the objects being noted, and Vikhamana Vimukti, freedom from kilesas about the objects, in respect of the objects not noted. In this way, with the maturity of the practice, one is bound to come to a stage when one will be able to uproot all kilesas to the point of no return. We shall continue tomorrow.